last night was a great night for Mac Jones. I do also think it sort of shows how far he's fallen that we're celebrating a loss because he looked good in the game. He did look great. But, I do think that it was so if they win that game last night and Mac has the same statistical performance, the story nationally is Mac Jones rising to the occasion, Thanksgiving night, national TV, prime time. His last prime time performance, he was so bad he was yanked in the second quarter. In this game, he leads the Patriots against one of the best teams in the NFC to win on the road in a very loud, tough place to play. What a cool environment it seemed last night with the Vikings fans there. And instead, it's moral victory Friday, and the Patriots now enter a pretty tough stretch needing to win a bunch of games.
Yeah. Scheim, I know you're a little bit painted into the anti-Mac corner. You've done it to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
But now
definitely.
to give him praise after last night, how far are you willing to go? Do you believe he's the guy? Because
No.
you have repeatedly said he's not.
Yeah, no, I'm still not convinced that he's the guy by any means. Because just because he was amazing last night, and to his credit, he was very, very, very good last night. I cannot take anything away from what he did last night. I didn't love that sack at the end of the game. Outside of that, though, I felt he played more or less a flawless game. And so with that in mind, I can't, though, also erase everything I have seen from him the last 10 weeks this season and the final 6 weeks of last season, which wasn't good and turning over the football a lot.
But why isn't last night the blueprint of sorts? Why can't they have quick passing game? Why can't they use Stevenson for 10 targets a night? As you correctly pointed out, they had him all over the place, which is great. They should be doing that.
Yeah, I think it was great. I think it was a good game plan overall, but you need to replicate that now. It can't just be a one-off. Like we've seen a couple instances where it felt like in the Baltimore game, right? Mac was throwing it around the yard a little bit. Yeah, he was turning over the ball, but he was completing passes down the field to Devontae Parker, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. He gets injured, comes back, and it's nowhere to be found again. And so,
it disappears because his line was terrible, and his play calling was even worse.
The line never changed, though. It was terrible to start the season, and it was terrible later in the season. So it's still bad. Like, it was bad. It wasn't. They were good last night, but the line is still bad. Those players are still outright bad.
All the more credit to Mac.
I just said, he had an awesome night. I'm not.
34-yard pass to Aguilar on a rope right down the seam.
100%. The best
Hunter
pass
Henry
I've seen him make in the NFL.
Great recognition, play action, boom. Henry wide open over the middle.
Couldn't agree more. He had the best night of his career last night. However, to be the guy, you have to do it more than one time. You have to replicate things like that. I'm not asking him to top himself every game going forward, but he has to be good. He has to be good to very good, and then I will start to buy into him being the guy. But until you can replicate any semblance of what he did last night, I'm still not convinced he's the guy.
And the Patriots, since 2020, I just did this math pretty quickly, but it appears after Thanksgiving on the road, they're 2-7, and one of those wins was the wind game where Mac threw 3 times against Buffalo. So it has been a bad event a bad series of events on the road in the most crucial part of the season in the last couple of years.
Well, big spot next Thursday, obviously. Bills game home. You said wind. That's encouraging. Get the wind ramped up for Josh Allen and his gimpy elbow.
The Bills have been far more, I would say, vulnerable than we all thought at the beginning of the season.
God, they lost to the Jets.
They lost to the Jets.
How is
and
that
if
possible?
the Lions, if Dan Campbell has to drop the whole machismo bit now after the way he coached that game in front of the whole country, just totally peeing down his leg, playing for a field goal with a kicker who missed a 19-yarder, you somehow get it, and then you prevent your ass back to the other 30-yard line,
right,
and the Bills win the game. I mean, pathetic final minute of coaching by the Lions. But the Lions, who I know we can't do transitive properties here, the Lions got their ass kicked by the Patriots, and the Lions at home almost beat the Bills. So all that comes into play to say that the Bills are by no means this insurmountable object. I saw a text that said CBS has the line as the Patriots plus 3.5. That's about where I would have put it, 4.5, 3.5. So the Patriots are a home dog, which we know with Bill as the head coach has been a good place to be.
Is Mac back? 617-779-7937 here on the Greg Hill Show. Ken, Curtis, and Scheim in for the crew. Greg on Nantucket. Wiggy flexing. Courtney, where did she go? We're not quite where. She stuck around?
Greater Boston area. And
nice for her to come this morning then if she's in the Boston area.
the box potatoes were a huge hit, I hear.
God, Scheim was crushing the box potatoes on the group chat.
Yeah, I bet they were delicious.
Man, speaking of that rivalry, Ken, even in the group chat.
Listen to that.
the tension with the
What
butter
happened?
knife?
I think I missed the start of this. How did this happen?
I don't know. It's just I play a lot of Courtney drops because to her, I'm sorry, but she has a lot of faux pas in speaking sometimes. She also does trending every single day, 4 times a day, so there's a lot of opportunity for it.
Oh,
as well.
that's it.
Oh,
That's it.
Yep, that's it.
Trending beef.
Yep.
I don't think
Because
there's trending
Shime
beef.
trended on the Gress show. And he did a
Right.
nice job. I'll give him that.
Thank you.
So that's been ripped away from him. The little pep in his step today, Curtis. Did you notice that?
I did, and the trends have been spectacular, and he hasn't mispronounced Lulenberg.
That's true.
Oh,
Not
oh.
yet. I haven't mispronounced Lulenberg or Jiu-Jitsu. That's another one I was pretty good at.
Well, Curtis has Shime has his time to shine with his post-show podcast. He does the BetQL with Mutt daily, and he's on the Six Rings pod once a week as well.
Lulenberg.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't had more remote Courtney today, for that matter.
Oh, you haven't asked to check in with her. I'd be happy to give her a call and ask her to check in at any point.
All right, well, Shime gets that ready. Let's talk some Mac Jones, 617-779-7937. And by the way, Curtis, the Mac accuracy in this game, that's not he has been accurate this year. What has been his major problem? He's had 3 straight games now without a turnover. He had some dumb throws early where he was trying to force it. He seems to have corrected that.
The biggest problem in Mac Jones's game is inability to feel pressure before it comes, and the ability to move up in the pocket. You don't have to be, Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen in terms of mobility. You need to be mobile in the pocket. We saw that with the prior guy for 2 decades where, he was able to feel it, step up 1 step, lateral in front of himself, and get to an open receiver.
Or just get it out in the second and a half.
Right. Mac, for whatever reason, and I think that you could put some of this blame on Matt Patricia, who's been scheming these plays up, with chopsticks after getting dinner. He is maybe not seeing players get open, so he has to hold the ball. But either way, for his own preservation and for the preservation of a drive, take the incomplete pass and don't lose 7 yards on a sack. That is his biggest issue from my point of view.
Aguilar and Hunter Henry were useful last night. Devontae Parker was actually a factor in the game. He spread the ball around to multiple targets. That's a great sign.
I thought the offense really was unlike anything we had seen this year, basically. I mean, Zappe offense was very successful against the Browns and the Lions, but when it comes to all hands on deck, on the road, in a game that was going to need you to get into the 30s to win, the Patriots did not look outmatched. You would agree, Ken, when the Vikings went down the field and scored in that opening drive with precision-like accuracy.
Right. It's this is not the game. They can't win this type of game.
Exactly.
But
they almost did.
But they should have, if not for the refs and special teams meltdowns. Let's go to Mike in East Longmeadow. Hi, Mike.
How are you guys?
Excellent. What's going on?
Happy Thanksgiving. I want to get your take. I've been listening to you guys and some of the callers, singing Jones's praise for last night and then criticizing him overall. How about the other quarterback that was there last night? I've been watching Kirk Cousins now for a few games, and I would take Jones over Cousins every single week. And the difference is Minnesota's weapons are far superior than the Patriots' weapons. And I think that has a lot to do with the growth or lack of growth for Jones.
Name me the only
you agree with
quarterback
that?
in the NFL, Mike, who has had 25 touchdown passes in each of the last 7 seasons.
Say that again?
Name the only quarterback in the NFL to have 25
Well,
touchdown
it's probably
passes.
Kirk Cousins.
Yep.
Do you know
But
what
I
else
watch
he's
it,
had
the eye
every
test
one of the
tells
last
me-
5 seasons as well? 4,200 yards at least.
I
On top
think,
of that.
like I said, I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's anything more than a good quarterback. I watch him. He gets sacked. He holds the ball way too much. He seems like he's always rushed, but he's got great, great weapons. That's why Kirk Cousins is doing what he does. I watched Mac Jones last night, and granted, it was probably one of his better games, and he maybe needs to do that more often, but you got to have weapons. You got to have guys that go get the ball. And I don't think the Patriots have that. They have a couple of guys that are pretty good, but they're not comparing them to Minnesota's offense. Is not even close.
But this is the
That has
issue
a lot
here,
to
Mike.
do with it, I
that-
think.
This is the issue here, is that we can't have just a good thing. We now have to go extrapolate it and say he's better than Cousins. He's better. It's like
Well,
he had a good night.
I'll tell you what I think the Patriot problems, or the people who criticize the Patriots and criticize him, they all want him to be Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a generational quarterback. He's not going to be Tom Brady.
Overrated.
I think after his second year, I think he's done okay. He gets criticized time and time again by Patriot fans left and right because they expect much more with very little to work with.
He's
Yeah.
been
That's what
okay.
I
We
see.
agree. He's been okay.
Yeah, I mean, to compare him to Cousins, it's almost not even worth it because Cousins is 10 years older. Like, for a 24-year-old, what would be – so I guess it's worth discussing if you think, like, Bill would go after Kirk Cousins next year or something like that.
I mean,
No, he
Belichick has been effusive in his praise of Kirk Cousins, though, like in a way that he isn't of most quarterbacks. And I think Andy Hart even compared what Cousins does pre-snap to Peyton Manning. Like the amount they ask of him to change plays and audible out and get them in the right scenarios. Like Kevin O'Connell trusts Kirk Cousins a lot, and I think that matters. Do I think Kirk Cousins craps his pants in primetime a lot? Sure do. Absolutely. But I think if Mac Jones is Kirk Cousins in the long run, like I think that's kind of about right. I think they're pretty similar in what their strengths are and what they can do.
He's at
They're
least
entering.
– good.
They're entering their post-Thanksgiving schedule, and he has 6 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions. He was great last night. But let's stop, just allow that to be. I think that last night showed that the jury is still out on Mac. He still has a ceiling that maybe I didn't foresee. In the way he performed, despite his coaching staff on offense, was exceptional last night. All of that's true without him saying that you'd rather have him over Kirk Cousins or other guys.
What is Cousins' playoff record, by the way? It can't be
I don't know.
anything of note.
I can pull that up in a second. Hold on.
I mean, that's probably going to be the biggest knock on him. But he's a good quarterback. Like, nobody would say he's at least average, right?
His overall playoff record is 1-2. He lost his only game with Washington, and then he is 1-1 with Minnesota.
Wow, so the guy's been in the league like 11 years. He's played in 3 playoff games.
And he's been exceptional in one place, the negotiating table.
Excellent at the negotiating table. You're absolutely right.
But in 10 years, do you see Mac as – I mean, he better be at least as good as Cousins in 10 years if he's still around. He's got the arm. He showed that, last night. When he's got time, Mac is good.
Right, but that's the whole point of this. The Belichick offense in its entire time with the Patriots, whether it was McDaniels or Weiss or O'Brien or whoever, it was predicated upon the quarterback making quick decisions and being accurate with the football.
Right.
Because they never had top-of-the-line wide receiver talent outside of a year or two, and they didn't have these huge, massive expenditures on the offensive line up until they franchised Tooney for no reason in his final year. So you had to have a guy that was you had a good scheme, you got guys open, you relied on play action, and you made the right decision with the football. Up until last night, by and large, Mac didn't do very many of those things. He did last night, and he showed a great ability to get the ball down the field in a dome into the arms of his wide receivers.